Very good. Thank you for immediately playing this next video. In this video, I want to introduce you to the concept of complex problems or wicked problems. Now, generally, when we think about solving a problem, we think about finding a fixed solution. But in organizational life, rarely is it the case that there is a specific fixed solution that is the right solution. Organizational life is not like mathematics. There are times where things look as though they're simple, but actually they're quite complex. Where a particular problem that we might be dealing with has multiple facets to it. Perhaps there seem to be an innumerable amount of causes. It could be the case that there is a long history to the problem that we're not as familiar with, and so it's difficult to solve the problem. Maybe perhaps you've been pitched into some new department and there are social relationships there, and it's difficult to uncover exactly what is the cause of a particular problem that you're seeing. It also might be the case that you lack the data necessary to make a decision. I once heard that Colin Powell said that in any given decision that you make, you're in a good place if you have 70 to 80% of the information you need to make a decision. Then really making the decision is easy. But rarely does one have all of that information that one would like. So what I want to do here is to help you define what a wicked problem is, or a complex problem. But then what I would like to do is to give you an example of the criteria that I will give you now for defining a wicked problem actually in practice. So let's now look at 5 ways of identifying a wicked problem. First, a problem may involve many stakeholders with different objectives and different values. And these different stakeholders make a particular problem more complex. How is it that you satisfy all of them? Or how do the power or how does the power that each particular stakeholder have apply to and affect the particular issue or problem that you are trying to address? 2, the issues may arise out of a tangled web of causes that you do not understand. How is it that you untangle these various causes that leads to this problem being very complex? 3, this problem is difficult to come to grips with, and the more you try to come to grips with it, potentially, it could actually change and become more and more difficult to solve. 4, the challenge that you're facing has no previous precedent, or perhaps previous precedents really are not adequate for dealing with the particular way that this problem is sorted. And 5, there's no apparently correct or right answer for solving this particular problem. If it happens to be that the problem that you're dealing with has several of these particular factors or qualities, then most likely you are dealing with a complex problem. So, can I give you a tangible example of a problem like this? Yes. Think back to August, or maybe even July 2008. We were on the eve of a financial crisis. Imagine if you had been Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, and you are looking at the entire American financial system just crashing. Well, clearly, that is a problem that involves multiple stakeholders. It's a problem, the roots of which are complex and tangled. It's a problem which is difficult to get one's mind around, and the more you try to solve it, the more it changes. There was no, at least in his mind, there was no previous precedent for dealing with it, and also it apparently was a problem with no correct answer. Do you take money from the people and give it to the financial sector? Or do you let the financial sector fail, and then that will in turn affect the people? And so what Hank Paulson did is made a series of strategic decisions where he actually applied what I would call the principles of war or the principles of operations. And he quickly moved to try to solve the problem. Now, whether or not you agree with these, well, almost $1 trillion being taken from the American people and given to Wall Street, and whether you agree with the massive amount of money that was spent on buying mortgage-backed securities by the Fed and done so secretly. Even if you don't agree with that, we can still see that in the example of this situation, we have a complex problem. And in the example of Hank Paulson trying to solve the problem, we have someone trying to sift the various aspects of the problem in order to bring about a solution. Well, maybe the problem that you're going to choose is not going to be the total rescue of the financial system. But if you apply these 5 criteria, okay, if you apply these 5 criteria to your own search for a complex problem, I'm confident that in your life, in your experience, in your organization, there will be some particular problem that will meet these criteria. And to that effort of finding that problem, I ask you to turn now. Please make sure that you identify that clearly and respond by explaining this in the assignment that I have given to you, the written assignment that I have given to you in Module 1.